The future of business coaching is changing. Here to lead us into the future is Daryl W. Gurney. He's an author, an executive coach, a speaker, a licensed spiritual counselor, and he's also an entrepreneur, co-founder of CareerGuide.com and TheBeck40.com. Welcome, Daryl.
Hey, thank you, Gene.
I really love this theme. Business coaching, past, present, and future. Tell us about the knowledge that you were seeking here.
Well, I will just say that anyone coming into this conversation now would probably want to treat it like a Netflix series and go back to the beginning and walk through, because kind of a lot of the previous themes have touched on so many varied ideas of what coaching is, how it's being received, what are the cultures that it shows up best within, how it gets into organizations, that it just kind of evolved that I wanted to just ask this expert panel, where was coaching, say, 10 years ago? I mean, we could look at it 20 years ago. Didn't even really exist much 20 years ago as a distinction. You had therapists, you didn't have coaches. But, where was it 10 years ago? Where do they see it in 10 more years with all the involvement and technology and the greater receptivity? So I just wanted to see what this expert panel had to say about that.
Now, Daryl, I think your findings might surprise a few. But before your findings, tell us about the thought leaders who sat in on this knowledge stream panel.
Again, it's always a privilege to throw out a topic or throw out an idea and just see how it is run with, given all the varied experience. We have so many people that jump in and really get involved in this conversation, and you get to hear the perspectives from just different parts of the world. We have coaches that are in the UK. We have coaches that focus in Scandinavia. We have coaches that work varied corporate structures, work individually with executives and managers. Just a great group, and it's always a fun kind of thing to throw a rock in the water and see how it ripples out.
In your executive summary, you kick stigma to the curb and you embrace machine learning. Walk us through the slide.
Well, that's a real short, sweet way to capture this. One of the things that unfolded was just one of the big changes over the last 10 years has been the way coaching is perceived. And what the vast experts pointed out is just that it's not only more accepted as a basic, but it's actually a sign of companies that are really forward thinking. They're really all about continual growth and learning. You've got these new generations that are coming in that it just totally fits. It just fits the way they grew up. It fits their individuality, the specific attention. And we've also got the rise of artificial intelligence, which is going to become more and more a part of the coaching spectrum.
Very interested to hear more about that slide. Let's get into key point number one, which you've done a good job of recapping, which is that it used to be a fix to a problem, but now we use it to prevent a problem and to fuel growth.
Yeah, David brought up a point there is, of course, that it's just more accepted, and coaching has a lot more pieces to it. And, I always say whenever I'm working with an executive, within 2 or 3 sessions, I'm getting down into the personal stuff, because it is that personal stuff that is going to be shaping their performance and how they're showing up. So, although it may be the results or the metrics or whatever that are on the outside of the, what we want to produce out of coaching, it's these deeper things that are being addressed. Don, talks about the stigma falling away. And even Brendan McGinty, pointed out that 10 years ago, you maybe have 1 session a week with your coach and you chocked it full of lots of issues and things to talk about. But in today's world, not only is it so more accepted, but because of video technology now and accessibility to coaches, you don't have to actually sit down with somebody. There's a lot more coaching. It happens with more frequency. So that's another dynamic of where it is now compared to where it was 10 years ago.
So not only is the idea or the reception changing, but the workforce is changing a lot. And they're kind of a sponge for the stuff, right?
Well, yeah. And Don, actually it was Patrick Hans and Don a lot of people were really talking about how you have your millennials, you have your Gen Y, you have your Gen Z, and Don pointed out how they're educated today, with a very much of a focus on, the educational system is about self-esteem. I mean, hey, we all know that, kids that grew up over the last 10, 20 years, they got participation awards, right? and yet when they get out into the workforce may still be very much metrics oriented. And therefore, these younger generations really do adapt well to an individual approach. And so, personal coaches working directly, with a young professional, coaching is not to fix. Coaching is keeping a great player being a great player.
So key point number 3, a little ominous, are the robots taking over our mind and our coaching?
Really great interactions with the experts around this. Patrick, talks about Gen Y. They're used to, getting their intelligence from sources, but at least they had to go onto the web or go onto an app or something like that to search it out. Now you've got Gen Z that shouts out to Siri or Alexa, find me this, find me that. And so they don't even have to store stuff in their brain because they have instant access to all of this out there. But what that has created is it's created generations that are really comfortable interacting with artificial intelligence. And so one of the things that was discussed a lot in the theme was, where will AI fit in? Where will bots fit in? And there's a concern that, or actually a belief that the human to human aspect will always need to be there for the top leaders and those really engaged at these highest levels of coaching. And yet, passing it down the line, those who have been coached may have artificial intelligence to support those, below them in the organization, or there may be ways to keep the weekly coaching alive through bots or AI that even supports that executive outside of their individual human fleshy coach.
Well, that's interesting. Now tell us about the 3 panelists that stood out on this panel.
Well, always Cody, Don, and Patrick, they come up here because they're just jumping in and they're involved. I got to say that a lot of people not showing up on here just make great contributions as well. Alan Arnett, who I mentioned, Brendan McGinty, Patty Soltis, Lena Rorvig, David Cottrell. So we have a lot, and I think, again, we are so thankful for the ones that week after week really engage and make this a real lively. It's almost like a salon. In the old days, the really intelligent people of Europe got together and they postulated great philosophies and things. And I feel like we've just got an awesome group of really intelligent coaches that throw ideas around in a really awesome way.
I look forward to our next conversation, Daryl. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene.
That's Daryl W. Gurney. He's an author. He's an executive coach, a speaker, a licensed spiritual counselor, and he's an entrepreneur, founder of CareerGuide.com and TheBack40.com.